had the pleasure of living at the lake, right on the lake for 15 years as a young adult, really just enjoying the nature. Being proud to know that this was our nation's first wildlife sanctuary. Getting to know the critters, waiting every year for the goslings to hatch and the little ducklings to follow their moms around. Lake Merritt is a living classroom. It is a legacy of past leaders who knew that having open space, having a place for nature to thrive and interact respectfully with people, that is a lasting gift for generations to come. And that's what we have to do. We have to make sure that this gift keeps on giving, that we honor it, that we honor the wildlife, and that we continue to create a beautiful, healthy, peaceful, restorative place right in the heart of Oakland, and that's Lake Merritt.
But especially 150 years ago, the Pacific Flyway was such a critical, vital pathway for birds that are migrating through this area. The San Francisco Bay Area was one of the premier stopping points for the wildlife, for the birds as they migrated through. So when they created the Lake Merritt Refuge, it was really setting aside an area that can support them through as they stop and then make it really all the way, many of them all the way to South America. I think it becomes very clear how important it is to the birds that come through here because they're here. You know, it wouldn't, if they weren't using it, if they didn't see it as a critical stopping point, then they wouldn't be here and it would clearly be of no value. The fact that they use it, the fact that they concentrate here is evidence enough that how important it is to help support them. And then turn around and give the people of Oakland an opportunity to see wildlife. I think it's just one of the great visionary things that happened to be right here in Oakland, and that 150 years ago they had the vision to create this, and 150 years later we have the ability to still appreciate what they did for us. It's a magnificent opportunity to protect wildlife on the Pacific Flyway, but also the local bird population and wildlife population. What's really important is that we create different microclimates and micro parks that provide opportunities for wildlife, whether it's good feeding opportunities for birds or whether it's butterfly gardens, or whether you get nature to be able to live right in the urban environment, so that the urban environment doesn't completely wipe out nature, but actually allows wildlife and nature itself to continue to thrive as in coexistence with people. So that's what's so magnificent about it. And it also provides an opportunity for people who are in an urban environment to link to nature and not to get too far away and to forget the fact that they are actually part of nature and that we're all in this together to make sure that the planet is preserved as we go forward.
Lake Merritt is part of the Central Flyway, so you get a lot of unique birds here in the wintertime. But there's also the residences here, and because this is one of the oldest wildlife refuges in the United States, the residents here have been here and some residents that you would not expect in the middle of an urban area like this, they're here. And that's because of the longevity of this refuge. But we're still the capital, brown California towhee capital of the world, and we have birds coming all the way over from Minnesota, right? The prairie potholes up there, the goldeneye and the bufflehead, and those kinds of birds actually spend a lot of their breeding season is in the prairie potholes, Minnesota, Canada, like that, and then they move back out here again. And pigeons, for example, they can get up to 50 miles an hour, and they can fly 600 miles in a day. Unique in that it's right here in the city, and it's at a nexus space in the city, and so it's very accessible. The fact that this is right in the urban area makes it even more important, especially for youth, so they can get here and see how these natural cycles work. The animals are great and they're fun, a great jump off point, but getting into understanding how nature works is so vital Having the urban wildlife refuge and a nature center right in the middle of the city is not only unique, but it's super, super important for kids.
So this is a great place to learn about birds, to advocate for a healthy environment, for an urban community. It's rare and special to have this extraordinary natural lake right in the center of a major city. Then we have regular seasonal birding activities to enjoy the wonderful migrants that come here and spend the winter with us. Then we come back to find out more about the nesting birds. You may know we have a very active double-crested cormorant nesting colony here. At its height, there were almost 200 nests. It's a little smaller now, but it's still very robust. What's robust and still very vibrant is the variety of species. The Lake Merritt enjoys over 100 species of birds. And as I say, some of them are regular visitors that we look forward to seeing and who stay with us part of the year. Others are what we call residents who live their entire lives in this area and raise their families here. This area is for all the generations, and how they learn from one generation to the next, where the food is, where the shelter is, where the danger areas are. And this is basically a message that's transmitted through the generations, and it helps birds survive. And for instance, we have a warming climate. This is going to change not only how Lake Merritt functions for the birds who are here, but for the birds that are finding some areas no longer habitable, and they may come and find Lake Merritt is safer and better for them. So birds are very adaptable up to a point. But true bird migration goes on many different directions, many transects, if you will. And here again, when you learn more about where a bird was hatched and raised, and how it cycles its life through this movement pattern and why it might be moving so great in so many distances back and forth, then you can more easily realize that it's not just a north-south pattern of the Pacific Flyway. It's much more complex than that. We have mountain ranges, we have waterways, we have desert, and they're actually timing their movements to take advantage of resources in different places at different times of the year, and also be sheltered from threats at different times of the year. So it's a form of intelligence that we're just now starting to understand and be very impressed by, frankly. So for instance, if you're talking about the pelicans that are here right now, why are these pelicans staying here? The American white pelican, not the brown. Why didn't they go with other of their what we call conspecifics or other pelicans to their breeding ground? Well, possibly because they're not old enough. They may be young. They may not yet be breeding age. This is a great place for them to hang around and do their version of social networking and learn and interact and socialize and establish pair bonds for a future time when they're old enough to breed. So they'll save their energy, they'll remain in a safe, sheltered space. So this is a welcome place for teenage pelicans. Many breeding birds in North America depend on caterpillars to feed their young. Chickadees, for example. That's the highest concentration of food that the chickadees give their young. And there was a time when, if you and I were standing here, there would be butterflies just flitting all over. But now we're seeing declines in butterflies. But we can restore them by bringing back the native plants, because native plants are what we call host plants for a variety of winged bugs, winged insects on which birds depend. We're advocating for conservation education about the entire life of a bird. Not just while they spend their life, part of their lives here in Lake Merritt, but where they are and what they need for their entire lives to remain resilient and to remain a strong, robust population with all the challenges, and now the biggest one of climate change.